More than 25 million people in 7 western states depend on water from the Colorado River. The economies of major metropolitan and agricultural areas in Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming are based in large part on the assurance of a reliable supply of water from the river. But the Colorado River is experiencing the most severe drought on record, and these 7 states may be dramatically affected. According to Michael Pierce, an attorney specializing in water law, if the drought persists much longer, a shortage may be declared on the river.
We are indeed at risk of running short. If the river continues to decline, the reservoir storage continues to decline, the Secretary of the Interior will be forced to declare shortage conditions and will be forced to curtail diversions and deliveries by the Central Arizona Project. Unless we see a significant hydrologic turnaround in the next few years, it seems fairly apparent that we will be curtailed and our water supply will be diminished.
Arizona's average rainfall is less than 7 inches per year. The rest of the country averages almost 30 inches per year. This lower than average rainfall prompted Arizona's business and governmental leaders to develop other, more reliable water supplies that are less vulnerable to drought. For the past 50 years, Arizona's developed groundwater pumping capability, as well as dams, reservoirs, and associated water delivery systems. The result of this planning is that communities in central and southern Arizona have not been largely affected by the drought because they're able to draw from multiple sources of water. In other southwestern states, the repercussions of the extended drought are more clear. California has historically used more than its annual allotment from the Colorado River by taking water not used by other states. It's now being forced to live within its entitlement. Nevada has the smallest entitlement, but the fastest growing population. It may run out of water in a couple of years without additional supplies. Sid Wilson is general manager of Central Arizona Project, which manages and delivers 1.5 million acre-feet of Colorado River water to central and southern Arizona every year. Wilson says it's clear that the boundaries of policy and politics no longer end at any one western state's borders.
The issues that we deal with, in one way or another, invariably affect 6 other states and the economies of urban areas and agricultural areas. It has impacts on the environment, has impacts on recreation. So we're now in an era where you can't just manage your issues within a state. You've got to work with the 6 other states.
The following threats to Arizona's Colorado River water supply will become more menacing in the coming years if the drought persists. Central Arizona Project's junior status for Colorado River water. The Central Arizona Project currently holds the lowest or most junior priority for rights to water from the Colorado among California, Nevada, and Arizona. This subordinated position is the result of a compromise reached in 1968 to secure funding to build the Central Arizona Project. CAP Board President George Renner says that in times of shortage, CAP's allocation would be reduced first, while other water users, including California, could remain unaffected.
In Arizona, the Central Arizona Project is the first entity that is shorted. Arizona is shorted, and then within the Arizona allotment, CAP takes the brunt. We have a 1.5 million acre-feet annual allocation of Colorado River water. If the Secretary declares a shortage for the lower basin of 0.5 million acre-feet, 100% of it comes out of the Central Arizona Project supply.
In 1997, Arizona created a water bank to store excess Colorado River water in Arizona's underground aquifers. This stored water can then be recovered in future years to augment available water supplies during shortages. Attorney and CAP board member Grady Gamage says Arizona's water bank has received its fair share of criticism from other western states.
The criticism can be made that there are people in Nevada who'd like to immediately use that water, and we're putting it underground for the future. Well, we have an obligation to our citizens, it seems to me, to do that. I have no sympathy for that criticism at all. We all know what our allocation is, and we need to live with that allocation. And if you can't live with it, then you need to figure out some way around it. We hadn't been using ours. And under the law of the river, the other states are entitled to just take it and use it. And most of it's been taken and used by California. Well, in California, a whole lot of that is used to grow vegetables and alfalfa and all kinds of other crops. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with growing crops. But is growing crops in the Imperial Valley inherently better than banking water in Arizona? I don't think so. I think those are both appropriate uses. To the extent you're banking water in Arizona to protect municipal water supplies, that's probably a higher and better use than growing alfalfa in California is. So I think we owe an obligation to our citizens to bank that water here.
Board President Renner has proposed an alternative to Arizona's water banking program.
We tell our critics, let's revisit our junior status on the river, and we'll certainly revisit recharge. Until that time, we have no choice but to protect ourselves by saving every single drop of water that is rightfully ours annually to make sure we're prepared to respond to a drought.
Operation of the Yuma desalting plant and over-deliveries to Mexico. The United States Bureau of Reclamation built the Yuma desalting plant to meet treaty requirements to ensure the quality of Colorado River water reaching Mexico. After investing $250 million to build the largest desalination plant in the world, the plant has been largely idle since its completion in 1992. Initially, the plant didn't need to be operated because there were surplus amounts of water on the river, and recently it's been deemed too expensive to operate. So, to meet treaty requirements, an additional 100,000 acre-feet of agricultural drain water is being diverted into Mexico every year. This water has created an artificial wetland and wildlife habitat. Water lawyer Michael Pierce says the primary question is, whose responsibility is it to protect Mexico's sensitive habitat?
We have a treaty. We meet our treaty obligations to Mexico, plus every year. We've over-delivered every year for the last several years in memory. We have water quality obligations that we meet every year. The United States cannot be faulted for its compliance with the Mexican Water Treaty on the Colorado River. And so it really brings into focus, if there's sensitive habitat in Mexico, is it truly the United States' responsibility to protect and maintain that habitat?
Today, the Yuma desalting plant requires extensive and expensive retrofitting to be put into operation. According to CAP President Renner, if the Yuma desalting plant were operational, about 100,000 acre-feet of Colorado River water would stay in Lake Powell and Lake Mead each year, reducing the likelihood of future shortages to the Central Arizona Project and eliminating over-deliveries of water to Mexico. Renner says operating the desalter is essential to CAP and the state of Arizona.
We have been successful in convincing the Assistant Secretary of Water for the Department of the Interior, has publicly stated he is in support of operating the Yuma desalter, recognizes the need to do so in this period of drought, and is committed to see that happen. That's a huge step forward for us. We have the state of Nevada's support, is now on the record supporting operation of the desalter. California, while not quite as vocal, certainly are not opposing operation of the desalter.
Preservation of Lake Powell and Glen Canyon Dam. Lake Powell in Page, Arizona is a critical storage reservoir for Arizona, California, and Nevada. However, some environmentalists propose draining Lake Powell and decommissioning Glen Canyon Dam in an effort to restore the Colorado River to its original condition. Arizona Congressman John Shadegg says not only is that unrealistic, but losing the reservoir would be economically devastating to the entire Southwest.
I think it is a strange argument, but the people that push it, in the sense that your question asks, are they very serious? And have they now abandoned their plans or their goal of draining the lake, given that we have this severe drought? And the answer is they haven't. They have a very, very long time horizon. They think in terms not of years, but in tens of years and maybe even 25-year blocks of time, or 50 or 100 years. They want the lake drained, period. And to some degree, it is just a commitment of faith to them, and they're willing to make any kind of argument to advance that position, even arguments that aren't, in fact, valid or true. People who want to resist this effort, people who want to overcome it, need to recognize that the proponents of this idea, when they finish draining Lake Powell, they will go on down the road and try to drain the other lakes. So I worry that they are so serious and so committed to their cause, in that if we take it for granted, if we just assume, oh, that's a crazy idea, it'll never happen, that's just the way to have it happen.
Despite the drought currently plaguing the Southwest, thousands of newcomers move to Arizona every year. Board member Gamage says our comfort level with abundant growth is changing dramatically.
If a drought like this continues, if the evidence that exists that droughts are not 7 to 10 years when they're bad, but 15 to 25 years or 30 years when they're bad, is accurate, we need to start planning against different parameters for drought. And we are soon going to be running up against a reality in which the water that's needed for future growth can only come by compromising the lifestyle of the people who live here today. Ripping out grass as an example. You tear out the grass in everybody's yard, you know what? You exacerbate the heat island effect. You make Phoenix hotter than it is now. Well, it's really hot out today. That wouldn't be a real desirable outcome.
As the urban and rural communities in Arizona and the other western states continue to grow, the need for consistent and plentiful water supplies is critical. You can help ensure the reliability of the Southwest's most important natural resource, the Colorado River, by contacting your elected officials. Write a letter, make a telephone call, or send an email that supports CAP's efforts to reverse its junior rights priority on the river, supports the operation of the Yuma desalting plant, opposes over-deliveries of water to Mexico, and opposes the draining of Lake Powell. Arizona, California, and Nevada are taking their full Colorado River apportionments. Considering Arizona's junior rights to the river, the demands of urban growth, environmental concerns, and issues with Mexico, and you can see why water is quickly becoming as valuable as oil. It's time to step forward and take action to protect this precious and finite resource.